Hello there. It is 2:22. Good things happen when the numbers repeat themselves, I think, like that three times in a row. Here I am. It's summertime. Once again, too sexy for this shirt, but not too sexy to shower. Thank God you'd be able to smell me from here. Um, what does that mean? Through your computer? Through your phone? While you're doing the dishes with headphones on? You'd smell me if I didn't shower. So here we are, folks. I actually wrote this about 4 days ago, but I finally worked out the bugs to it. And in the midst of which, I'd heard some rumors about the Roe v. Wade being overturned, and that is no, it's just a tragedy. And this is what happens when the wrong types of people get in power. And I know that abortion is a complicated issue, and I'm going to write a piece about that next time. But I think that because it is a complicated issue and because babies are grown in women's bodies, um, we must leave it up to the woman individually to have that choice. And I'll write a piece about that later. But today's monster is to do with money. And I think this is a timely and timeless poem because you see, like most of the world's problems are today's time things or recent history, like things like the environment, right? I mean, I know there were like terrible disease ridden conditions in which people lived, but pollution wasn't really an issue, I don't think, globally until the industrial revolution, right? And a lot of things in today's time are perhaps, in my opinion, made to be more than they are, more significant than they are. I'm not talking about everything. I think there are some real things that are specific to today's time, but the issue between haves and have-nots um, has been something that's plagued us our entire existence, right? Um, as the Bible says, famine, pestilence, and the sword, right? Starvation, disease, and war. These are things that have always been with us, and at least in today's time, I think that the starvation is due to the gross mismanagement, disorganization of wealth that funnels up to the top. There's no need for it in today's time, especially with all our abundance of resources. And if we were organized well enough, I don't think anybody would be starving or homeless if we had the will. So, with all these poems, I put my own little personal life into it, but I think I've reached out to a greater, um, I think more universal, or at least more, not just Josh's perspective. So I hope this is poignant, and I hope that I've worked out the bugs nicely. And for people who say like that it will like always be capitalism and there will always be haves and have-nots. Well, we don't really have slavery anymore, do we? And that was a very, very, very large part of human history. So I think that if we have the will to change this, and I think that comes from those on top, we can change this. And it goes to show that those who are in power need to have human rights at the fore of their concerns. That needs to be um, the front of the mind of every policymaker that is in the world, really. But obviously, unfortunately, it's not. So I have rambled on quite a bit long enough here, so much so I might have to put a shirt back on. Anyway, this is another 4 minutes or and a half or so. I posed the question, and as I'm scrolling up, how much money do you need? Well, I could use a dump truck full. and I'm sure you could too. But if I'm being fair, juxtapose me against most of the world. I'm swimming in luxury. I make about 12,000 a year, so most of the world ain't doing too good. My lifestyle is subsidized by generous dear ones, but unless there is a seismic shift, I'll have to apply for Meals on Wheels when my grandmother dies. According to the intake worker, a need for prepared meals doesn't justify disability benefits. Moderate cerebral palsy with damaged dexterity, mitigated mobility, persistent pain, and untreatable never-ending neurogenic bladder is only worth welfare wages. I wish someone with money took my art as seriously as I do. Yet, I have my apartment and I do not starve, at least not for now. Billions of others are not so lucky. Putrid, sulphurous yellow of greed is the root of all financial wrong. I won't say it infects us all. I read once about a real life Santa Claus who lived without means and all alone, but spent his life making toys for orphans. While it doesn't rule us all, greed is endemic enough to affect every segment of society. It makes the rich hoard their wealth, the poor long to have it. I'm not immune. I long deeply to finish furnishing my room with antique alacrity. I don't know if that even works together, I hope it does, and to present myself to the world with a poise and panache that only your grandparents can remember. My biggest financial desire is to own my own home, land where it lies. But that is a great dream, not a requirement for happiness. Though that putrid yellow infects every rung, I only blame those at the top, because they have enough to share and the power to set the example. We all know how the pyramid scheme funnels up. I say invert it. So instead of each rung feeding the one above it, each group helps the one below. And then I would have the capacity to serve the unhoused. But if we were organized like that, I would be as low as anyone could go. Everyone would get by. The economy actually trickles down. I ask, is it really to the benefit of the minimum wage laborer that the criminal ex president was able to lose billions so the former could flip burgers? Innovation does gestalt society forward, but it mustn't be confused with inheritance or luck. Wealth does not make you ingenious, it only provides opportunity, and most simply use it to abuse their power. We don't need financial equality. Wealth is only egregious when you juxtapose it against poverty. We only need a minimum guarantee. And then, wouldn't you feel less terrible about your millions and billions if no one is starving or unhoused? But of course, the problem is most of you fuckers don't feel bad about your millions and billions at all. You love your position on top, and that it is fed by emaciated bones on the streets, and the hateful morality that prescribes everyone else needs to sweep up your crumbs just to get by. Just remember that if you continue to gobble us up, we won't survive to do your bidding. So the answer is simple. Those on top need to share. Teach the rest of us to do the same. The only thing that stumps me is how we get there. Is it enough to tolerate your neighbor and recognize her need for an autonomous and dignified life? Or must you love everybody the way you love your best friend? By what means were our hearts softened and our minds changed to finally put an end to slavery? So, yeah, it doesn't have to be equal. I think that's absurd, but everybody needs enough to get by. And in the meanwhile, the gap needs to be shrunk. And I hope you enjoyed that. I don't think I can say this stuff any quicker. And yeah, I got to go get some pasties, I guess. Okay, good night, folks. Ciao.